Hey everybody, thanks for joining us. We're on week 32, the nervous system, and the blend is nerve help. So the nervous system, Auric program, you could pretty much use for just about anything. Big highlights for why to use this would be any sort of chronic health issue or health pattern, including chronic pain patterns. This is something that we use for when like somebody has like chronic back pain or chronic, hip or neck pain or something of that nature, because it helps the body break out of the repetitive negative pattern and helps to reestablish proper nerve function, which would also be known as regeneration of the nerves, which just simply means it re-educates the nerves to function more appropriately. So when we look at it from the point of view of trauma, trauma in the mind or in the emotions is usually the story about the event, the things that happened, how we think, how we feel. But the body sees trauma very differently. And it's really about adjustments that have to be made in the body, specifically by the nervous system, to get through the moment, to ensure that in the next 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and the next day that we're able to still function and thrive. So the nervous system makes these adjustments that then becomes established as a pattern, right? Once the nerves fire down a particular way, it becomes easier and easier to go down that way. So then something that might be, an adjustment or a little bit of a dysfunction can eventually become like a pattern that we can break out of. So there's that component. And then, if we look at it from the point of view of, we're going into deeper looks at rest and repair with our deeper dives into the vagal tone. You know, when we look at vagal tone, we're looking at all the different systems, but the one area, the nervous system, is kind of the root to all these other areas in the body. And we look at cardiovascular vagal tone and muscular vagal tone. And like this coming up weekend, we're doing inflammation and, looking at how pain affects vagal tone in the body and things like that. But really, vagal tone is still the balance between a particular part of the nervous system. And so our ability to achieve deeper levels of vagal tone and to maintain that vagal tone also tied to this Auric program. The class that we did with cultivating the mystical heart, which was bringing a sense of balance to all the different parts of the nervous system. And, we were addressing like loops in the body and things like that. Like you could say that's kind of the core for the vagal tone as well. As we look at all the different systems, it still comes back to we're hitting the fight, flight, and the rest and repair mode, and then that kind of goes up like a chain reaction through different parts of the nervous system. And so, um, even the class that we did several years ago, the vital centers, is like also a component of vagal tone. We'll talk about that later, but all these aspects they're overlapping and they're just like pieces of this bigger viewpoint. And so when we look at it from the point of view of the aura, helping your body go into rest and repair mode and shift out of that negative uh, sympathetic nerve um, dominance, basically fight, flight. Uh, One of the biggest things you can do from the point of view of Auric programming is this aspect, the nervous system. And so this is one that you could do all the time. I mean, you could add it to any other stack, you could add it to any other process, and it would bring some sort of benefit on some level. A lot of times I go, oh, when I travel, I usually have this with me, which is true. But sometimes it end up like not having it in my travel bag because I'll either use it up or I'll give it to somebody. And then I don't have it, and I'm always like, ugh. But the other thing is I have a big bottle of it in the bathroom for salt baths. So that's the other indicator is like what are the things that I use in the salt baths? And I don't use it every time, but I use it a lot. So there's a whole list of conditions that you can use it for, but honestly, I would say all conditions and just call it good. Right? So we're going to start off with the standard approach. This is something that you could do daily or add to other processes. So you notice how you feel, your body, your emotions, your mind. And let's begin inhaling. You're inhaling nerve help. It's on the left side of your body, left side of your face and neck, your left shoulder, ribs, your left hip, all the way down to the left outer ankle. You're on the left side of your body. Nice, long, slow, deep breaths. Move your awareness to the front side of the body. Your face, your throat, your chest, your abdomen, front of your pelvis, down the fronts of your legs to the tops of your feet. The right side of your body, the whole right side. Right side of your face, neck, your right shoulder, right hip, down the outer leg to the right outer ankle. And then the back side of the body, your whole backside, back of the head and neck, your whole back, your hips, down the backs of your legs to your heels. And then just pause and be still. Pause and be still. Okay, so that's something that you could do on a daily basis. You could add to another process or protocol, especially the vagal tone work, but really any protocol. And it's something that you could add to a stack. And I mean, like any stack could benefit from the use of working the nervous system. But now we're going to do the advanced approach, which is something you might only do 1 or 2 times a week. That way, your body and your energy body can have time to adjust and integrate. So, with that, you're again on the left side of the body. You're taking nice, long, slow, deep breaths. Left side of your body. Nice, long, slow, deep breaths. You're on the back side of the body, your whole back side, back of the head and neck, your whole back, the back of your hips, down the backs of your legs to your heels. The right side of the body, the whole right side. Your awareness is on the right side of your body, whole right side, from the side of your face down to your ankle. You're taking nice, long, slow, deep breaths. The front side of your body, the whole front side. And then pause and be still. Okay, let's start inhaling again. Your awareness is on your knees. So either your whole knee, the front, the sides, the back, or you can do just the back. Your awareness is on the ankles. And then the soles of your feet. Your awareness is on the soles of your feet. And then just pause. Now, we're doing the quadrants again. Your awareness is on the left side of the body. Whole left side of the face, neck, left shoulder, all the way down to the left outer ankle. The front side of the body. The front side. The face and throat, the chest, the abdomen, front of the pelvis, down the fronts of the legs to the tops of the feet. How's this be? Yeah, it's like, how would I not do this every day? Yeah. We're on the right side of your body, right side of your face, neck, shoulder, all the way down to the right outer ankle. The back side of the body, the whole back side. Pause and be still. Just be still. Okay. The next part where we're inhaling, our awareness is on the brain. Your awareness is on the spine. The brain and spine both at the same time. The brain and soles of your feet both at the same time. And as you inhale, move your awareness up above your ankles. As you exhale, down below your feet. Inhale up, exhale down. Just pause and be still. Just be still. Okay. So, like I said, nervous system impacts everything, including your emotions and your mind. Also impacts spiritual growth, your ability to connect to the soul. It's tied to patterns in our lives, be it physical, emotional, mental, even spiritual, or what you would call karmic. Um, and it's tied very deeply to vagal tone. Any sort of chronic pattern in the body, your go-to thing should be the nervous system. So anyway, let's go ahead and do some shares and questions. You can unmute yourself or type in.
And remember, we're keeping it specific to the ARC programming right now, and then we'll open it up to the regular Q&A, and I'll cue you guys when it's time
Yeah.
for that.
Yeah, we'll be doing normal questions in just a few minutes.
Go ahead, Barbara.
Hey, Barbara.
Hey there. I could tell from the beginning it was going to be a wow. A lot of energy moving, but it evolved into something I didn't expect at all. When we got to the last part of the quadrant at the back, I had this split-second image of that yellow radioactive caution warning sign.
Mm-hmm.
And then when we got to the next piece with the brain, I had this split-second image of a Native American standing very still and solemn. And then we got to the spine.
Was he wearing a headdress or anything? Or
Not a big fancy one, but seemed like there was a spear or something maybe they was holding, pointed out.
okay.
And when we got to the spine, and I had this huge sense of just devastation.
Hmm,
And
that's interesting.
was on the verge of crying. Um, so I'm wondering what I tapped into. Um, I didn't see any imagery all weekend.
Does that devastation feel like familiar at all? Like even from when you were young?
Not personally. It
Okay.
feels more of the collective in some way.
I mean,
Or
it could be.
it really doesn't feel personal. I mean, unless it's a past life thing. But
Actually, what I would say is interesting. The thing that I would say is, I wouldn't normally go here, but um, like when I look at it, it looks like it's not like about you, or like you said, it's not about you, or but it has to do with like some sort of pattern or something within the family. But I don't know that it's even like the immediate family. Like it could go back a little bit and
yeah, I'm getting chills as you say that. Yeah, I had this huge wave of
yeah, it's like a
happening.
difficulty. I wouldn't say it was like an incident or, I would say it's probably not even like like sometimes you go, well, like maybe there's karmas that go through the generations here. I would say it's just like this kind of like difficulty or struggle that maybe has happened through a few generations that, we all inherit that.
Mhm.
We get it energetically, we kind of get emotional patterns that it's not necessarily born of our physiology or of the mind or emotions that come in with the soul, but we kind of inherit this like pattern that's been going through the generations that is just be it emotions or thoughts, um, and it looks like that you know I'm not really picking up what it is.
No, there's a pattern of physical abuse.
Oh, that's probably what it is. Like it's yeah, that could be it. Because a lot of times things like that isn't just like one person did it. Like a lot of times it like will kind of skip a generation or go through the generations. And bottom line, if you think about it, 150 years ago, life was a lot harder. You know what I mean? And people didn't think about things the way we think about things now. And so, you know, I talk about my Uncle Bob's, you know, I saw that like as a young child, even the few generations back were still alive. And I'm sure on some level they were nice people, but they also seemed like very harsh people. You know what I mean? Like even like what I would call an Uncle Bob now is a watered down version of what that potentially was a few generations ago. And so I think it has something to do with that. I usually don't go there with stuff, but this one I would say, especially when you're in there with the nervous system, is you are breaking out of a pattern. And I'd say the sadness and grief is like anytime you start to let go of something, especially emotional or mental, or that it's affecting your emotional or mental, there is a little bit of a grieving process. You know what I mean? There's like, ugh, even though it's like, I'm so glad it's gone, there's still like, I've had to go through with it. And, you know, in some weird way, it was still a piece of us. And so, in different traditions, you with your Buddhist background, a lot of times they say that in a lifetime, you might die several times, like little pieces of you just keep dying off. And I would say you're probably in the process of something like that. And a lot of times it'll happen in your sleep. It's not necessarily something you have to work through mentally or revisit or figure out. It's in motion. Like you've quieted yourself down enough to where something like that can leave you. And the thing that I would say is that not only does it benefit you, but it also benefits, next generations, even though it might not be your children. Like whenever, this is according to a guru that like I had this discussion with. He said whenever you release something or work through something or shift something deep like that, it will go through the generations, even if it's not your children, because there is like this kind of like family like thought pattern or emotional pattern that goes through, and everybody's kind of contributing to it, good and bad. And
Mhm.
the more that we go through and we heal those things, the more that as it goes through the generations, it actually refines it and makes it better. So it should eventually help you to be in a better place, but also further down the line, it should help other people as well.
Thank you. So is your sense that this is going to move out on its own, or is there anything
Yeah,
else I should?
it probably got started with the weekend, to be honest with you.
Okay.
The all the stuff with Jupiter,
Okay.
because if you think about like Jupiter, a lot of it's about materialization. And so if you think about materialization, it's like light as it's beginning to interact with the form. You're bringing in an essence and then you're bringing something into materialization, right? And so with that, the light basically starts to establish like a kind of pattern before it materializes. And that whole idea of four, it breaks up into four pieces, or you could say there's like four components to it. And, if you think about Jupiter, it was about materialization and it was also about presence, healing and presence.
Hmm.
And so, you're doing these things to really refine your presence, which is another way of saying essence, and then you're working on healing and then concretizing things. And so, as you go through, it does purify the form. And even if you look at the things that pass down through the generations, even if it's an emotional or mental pattern, a pattern is a kind of form. And so you're breaking up forms, not just the way we think, but a lot of what we think comes from other people. Like it comes from our body, and a lot of it comes from other people, be it society, the people around us, but also things that we've inherited and the way that we think about these things. And so, you know, you definitely got the ball rolling on the weekend, and then you do some neurological work, and I mean, your body will start shedding things that are of like a lower vibration, and these things will will pass. They'll shed, they'll float away, but still just keep doing all the practices that you do. I don't know that you even need to do anything different. If you want to work this one a little bit, but I don't know that you need to turn the fire up too much. Like
Okay.
if you're already having that experience, it's moving. It's just a
Okay.
matter of time now. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. And most likely you'll process it in your dreams. That's where we really the deeper level of healing, especially psychological healing, really is more in dream time than awake time because we're in deeper levels of vagal tone, we're in deeper levels of rest and repair mode. And so we work through things um, much deeper that way. And I'd say, you know, you could pay attention to your dreams, but even if there's things there that you don't understand, I mean, sometimes I sit and reflect on them or maybe write them down just for the sake of trying to bring the dream forward to consciousness. But you really don't have to figure it out like from an intellectual point of view. Like, what does that mean? What is this piece? Because really it's like a flow. You're just opening up this channel for something to keep moving that is beyond the mind, beyond the emotions, and it really is very, very deep part of the intuitive mind. And so just keep the flow going. Yeah.
Okay. If I don't remember my dreams at all, it doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It
Thank you.
doesn't matter. I mean, the dreams that I remember, sometimes I can say, oh, it's about that. And sometimes I'm like, I have no idea what that's about. Like, I couldn't even tell you details. And then there's kinds of dreams where, it's almost like bringing to light things that are in the subconscious or unconscious, and they're bringing them to light. And it doesn't mean that you have to do anything, but sometimes bringing them to your conscious awareness helps to shift or release something. It's usually like weird things, like ugh, even if you think about it in meditation, like sometimes in meditation, or we do some of the deeper classes where we do like deeper work, and you'll start have these flashes of these little weird situations, like and you go like, there was no trauma there was no weird thing. Most likely what that was is, for whatever reason, an instinctive response got triggered in that moment, and it still kind of like tried to send it up the emotional mental chain, but it had enough of a response for the body to remember and to have like a reaction in the nervous system, but it was probably no big deal. But still, your body was like, ugh, that person said that weird thing at the grocery store, and it's just these weird things. And part of that isn't that there was some big issue that was happening at the time. It usually means that the instincts were usually hyper reactive. Like it just kind of means like everything was on a little bit of like red alert, and things just got triggered. And so it will start to eventually agitate the emotions and agitate the mind, but there's really nothing there to resolve other than my instinctive responses are a little too agitated. That's all it usually means. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, all the things we're doing, we're addressing all of these things and the practices that we're doing. So I would say just keep doing it, but I would still observe and wait to see if something arises out of that might need to be addressed, but most likely it will pass like clouds.
And then we are still doing the ARC programming shares and question guys. So if you have a regular question, we'll get to that. We'll let you know when to raise your hand. But go ahead, Denise.
Hey, Denise.
Hi. Hey, Greg, on
Mhm.
Nerve Help, is this one I can take internal or is this an more
I would just do it in externally. No
external?
real big benefit from taking it internal. Yeah.
I still have on my right cheekbone, just in one area
On
towards
your,
my
on
ear,
your where?
right cheekbone. You
Cheekbone.
know,
Okay.
yeah, otherwise the sinuses are much, much better. But you know what? That medication, it really took out my ankles. It was about 3 days before I was going to be done with it. I could hardly, my ankles were really, really affected. And then I got through all but one pill and then I quit
Like
taking it.
like swelling or like tendonitis?
Almost like I thought I'd have to go back to physical therapy to get them straightened out. They were, I want to say, like the nerve pain I was having from my hip all the way down and wrapping around the inside of my foot, which drove me into physical therapy.
Right.
Um, it was happening in my ankles. And then I looked it up online, the
Yeah.
amoxicillin augmentin, and they did
Right.
say
Yeah.
that it was a side effect, but not as common as like nausea and diarrhea.
Right. It's not super common in some antibiotics too. There's like a greater potential for like muscle irritation and like tendonitis and tenosynovitis. And like in athletes, we would always, like when I was doing a lot of work with athletes, um, athletes that did like tennis or, where you start and you stop and everything, whenever they would be on antibiotics, I was like, no training, no doing whatever, because they would have a greater potential for injuring tendons when they were on antibiotics.
Oh,
Once
wow.
it passes, it's fine. But like any sort of like explosive movements where, you're kind of, I don't want to say putting strain on the tendons, but like, the tendons are really having to work. Um, there's always a little bit of a greater potential. And so, the average person doesn't usually have to worry about it, but it can cause like things like you're talking about. Yeah.
And a little bit of my neck, which my neck's kind of one of my sensitive areas. So should I use
Yeah.
maybe the nerve help on the ankles and my neck and then on that place on my cheek? Or should I stay with German chamomile?
Let me look something up real quick and I'll tell you some things. I just have to go to my notes here.
Sure, that's okay.
Um, you can work a couple of things like so there's a few things that you could use, but here's the two that I would say that you have and that I would work. I would work tarragon, that you could take internal. That's going to have an anti-inflammatory effect. It's also going to deepen the vagal tone specifically for the muscular system. Um, and it is also an antispasmodic. And then the other thing would be galbanum, And again, some of those same things, but the thing that I would say with galbanum is that it has an impact on a bit of inflammation, but it's also can have an impact on the lymphatic system, like helping to decongest the lymphatic system. And if you think about what antibiotics are doing, part of what's happening is, you're taking these things to like, kill off bacterias and things like that. And so the body starts kicking off all these metabolic wastes, and you start to have um, more like metabolic waste that the lymphatic system has to process. And so what can happen is that the system gets like kind of backed up or clogged. It's like if the garbage man was on strike for a month,
Yes.
you'd have a lot of stuff in the kitchen or around the garage or wherever you keep the garbage, and you just got to take the garbage out and have it picked up. And in cases where there is an acceleration of you know throwing off of metabolic waste, it happens after colds and flus and things like that, but then you take antibiotics, there's an even greater course. Part of what that does is it makes the muscles and things a little bit more toxic, and that's part of what happens is it makes your body a little bit more prone to muscular issues when those things happen. So I would use those two. If you want to throw a little lymphatic blend on, you could do that. But if you want to go internal, tarragon and galbanum.
Oh, thank you. This is wonderful. Thank you
Mhm.
so much. I know that'll clear things up.
Yeah. A lot of times with stuff where it's, based on inflammation, or the German chamomile will help clean up the metabolic waste. So, I mean, that's always good. But, there's something about the galbanum that really, when there's like ache or pain or injury, it really helps to decongest the lymphatic system to such a degree where you almost start feeling immediate relief. Like within a couple hours, not just like, oh, I feel better. Like you can literally watch like swelling starting to go down, things like that. Yeah.
Thanks. Thank you. I can tell it's gonna make the huge difference. I can
Yeah,
just
I think
by
those
you
two will be
talking.
helpful. Add that, and I think you're good. Yeah.
Oh, excellent. Thank you
Yeah.
again,
You're so
Greg.
welcome.
And then I think that'll complete the art programming parts. If you still have some art programming shares or questions, please feel free to still raise your hand, type into the chat. Next week, we are going to do week 33, neurotransmitters. So that should be pretty great. And your oil is threshold. So have that ready and handy.